Lieutenant General Raj Qadian, former Deputy Chief of the Army Staff, is joining us. Siddique Wahid, I'm glad to see back with us. We can see a visual on him as well. Brigadier Anil Gupta of the BJP is also staying on. And on the phone line, joining us, senior journalist from Pakistan, Musharraf Zaidi. Thanks all so much for your time. General Qadian, let me start by asking you, something that we asked at the beginning of the show as well. You've heard what the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister had to say, sir, about talks with Pakistan being the only way to end the bloodshed. You've in all likelihood heard the Defence Minister also saying Pakistan will pay for this misadventure. How do you reconcile both, sir?
Yeah, I think the Chief Minister's statement is very unfortunate. Any suggestion to hold talks with Pakistan with the current environment is a non-starter. India has made the stand clear many times that we are willing to talk to a neighbor, but provided Pakistan first creates conditions that could be conducive to a dialogue. If you continue exploding bombs and firing bullets, there can be no dialogue take place. To that extent, I think Mehbooba's statement is untimely.
Okay.
Coming to the Defence Minister's statement, one is happy to note that she has said that Pakistan will have to pay a price. I hope she and the government walks the talk. We've been saying these things for a long time, that unless we extract a price from Pakistan, unless we impose a strong enough penalty which deters Pakistan from these perfidious actions along the line of control and in the interior, things are not going to change. The status quo as of today suits Pakistan. They are paying no cost. Jihadists are free. They keep coming and keep dying, but we are suffering on two accounts. First, we are losing security personnel, and even a bigger disadvantage is that we as a country are losing our standing. The world will think that such a powerful country on the verge of becoming a superpower, we keep getting hit from a small labor day in and day out. And we are
I just want to go.
Doing anything.
I'm going to go to Musharraf Zaidi in just a bit, but just before that, Siddique Wahid, come in here, sir, quickly. And this, of course, comes back to when you. My first question to you would be: each time we talk about Pakistan, the first thing that comes up with, do we know who we are talking to and to what that is going to achieve? Isn't that a big complexity in the situation, sir?
Yes, it is a complexity, and I think that also, I mean, I'm not fully up on the Pakistan side of how things go, but it's also who do we talk to, probably on this side as well. So I think that sort of is almost like an excuse. I think the key question is that are we wanting to talk, are we ready to talk? It is not the lack of wanting to talk, as the general just before me said, is not unique to this phenomenon. We've not been able to talk, or we've not been talking for a full year now or more, So what do we, sort of, let's not blame the current situation for not talking. We have not wanted to talk out of India for a long time. And I think that this is what is worrisome to us who live on the borders and who are, subjected to the shelling back and forth from both sides.
Okay, I'm going to get Brigadier Gupta in on that, but before that, we are also joined by Musharraf Zaidi, senior journalist from Pakistan. Musharraf, let me start by asking you, I'm not sure if you managed to hear that report that we just played out, but it raised the important question on why there's been an upsurge in this Pakistani aggression and joining the dots to the forthcoming elections. Is that a fair assessment, you'd say?
No, Natasha, I don't think it is. I think that we've never focused in on India as a electoral issue in this country, because frankly, the debate or the positive feedback or the benefits to political parties of being jingoistic are minimal. A lot of the jingoism is supported in the wider public discourse, just like it is in India. But one of the unique and quite strange features of Pakistani democracy is that there's been a very strong political consensus pretty much across the board in this country that seeks better relations with India. Now, whether that consensus is shared by the military or not, I think when the military is in charge of the country, like it was under General Musharraf, then we saw the 4-point formula, and it is. When the civilians are in charge, things get more complicated. But what I'd like to really say is, as you may know, yesterday, one of the more iconic voices for freedom and for human rights in our country, and I believe in our region and in the world, Asma Jahangir, she passed away yesterday, suddenly. And one of the things that she did throughout her life was that she tried to speak honestly and fairly to both Pakistanis and to Indians. And in the process, she made many enemies in Pakistan and many enemies in India, but she also...
Along with many friends here in India as well.
She also made many friends in India and many friends in Pakistan.
Okay.
So I think in Asma's memory, you know, I feel that it's imperative on me to remind you and your viewers and the various respected guests that we must not let our emotions drive us into positions that don't make any sense.
But
the idea that talking to Pakistan is not a good idea, it doesn't make any sense because the government itself keeps saying that it wants to punish Pakistan, but then keeps holding backdoor talks, back channel talks. This has been the merry-go-round for Indians and Pakistanis for 70 years.
Okay.
And I think
see what you're saying.
We need to be more sensible.
I see what you're saying, but when we see the kind of bloodshed that we are seeing, loss of all these lives, and of course you can imagine it makes a complicated situation worse. There are, of course, increasing voices now asking for some sort of response there to put an end to this. Either way, we need to put a stop to this. In the last 2 months, there have been a real upsurge in these kind of attacks. We haven't seen that all of last year, so 2 months really have been intense. But Brigadier Gupta, would you like to respond to that? Fact is that we're not really sure how to deal with Pakistan. There's unfinished business there. We just don't know what our response should be. And I want to get in, General Qadian, in just a bit on what response are we really talking about. But before that, Brigadier Gupta, how much do you believe that that is a challenge, that we just don't know how we want to deal with our neighbor?
No, we know how to deal with Pakistan. There's no doubt in my mind. We know it very well, and as and when time comes, we'll play our cards. But now coming out to a question of what are the reasons for the provocation and continued ceasefire violations. Now there are, to my mind, 3 reasons: tactical, strategic and geostrategic. As far as tactical reason is concerned, these are the winter months. During winter months earlier, the terrorists used to come from the heights to the towns and villages and enjoy their life. The army in those days, in the previous winters, were only conducting intelligence-based operations. It was not carrying out COSO, the coordinate search operations, which is a change now. Now, the terrorists are trying to confine the army and the security forces to the barracks so that maximum people are used for perimeter defense and few people are left for carrying out operations, and army is being forced again to carry out intelligence-based operations, rather COSO. That is the tactical reason. The strategic reason is that Pakistan wanted to tell the entire world it wants to internationalize the issue of this present turmoil in Kashmir. When Mr. Modi was visiting the Muslim country in the Middle East, they brought the violence to Jammu, then followed by Srinagar, to say that the entire state of Jammu and Kashmir is a flashpoint.
Okay.
And third is a geostrategic angle. In that, I agree with Muzaffar Beg Saab when he said that we cannot ignore China. As long as Pakistan is backed by China, Pakistani mindset will not change. Pakistani military will not let the mindset change against India. They will not have the relation to improve with India. And hence the Chinese angle is important.
Siddiq Wahid, if I could get you, when we talk about
violations.
Okay, Brigadier Gupta, just give me a minute.
Ceasefire violations are because of the radicalization of the Pakistani army.
Okay.
There is a radicalized element in the Pakistan army in the command and the lower level, which is not listening to the similar voices.
Absolutely.
Despite the Chief of Army Staff saying that we want good relations with India.
Okay, just give me a moment, Brigadier Gupta. I just want to take this back to Siddiq. You made the point earlier, Siddiq Wahid, about, the need to talk and of course, when we talk about this kind of statements we've heard from the defense minister that making Pakistan pay for this misadventure, then it is possible, you said, to sort of reconcile them in a way. But I want to just talk to you about reaching out. And this government has, the Prime Minister has personally also, reached out to Pakistan. So then many ask, what good has that done us? How would you respond to that, sir?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you mean by reaching out. Is that I don't think reaching out is either a one-time event or a, one-time shot. I think that as I think somebody before me said, that there are sort of back channel sort of talks going on and things. I don't know. And somebody else brought up the picture about, elections. Pakistan may be having elections in 4 months. India may be having elections in another 4 months or 5 months after that, or certainly next year. So, but, is this all having to do with it? Is this all this noise having to do with elections? I think is a very pertinent question and needs to be explored. And things. And in this day and age, when you're talking about two countries which are armed with nuclear weapons, and a third country, China, which has also been brought into the picture, also armed with nuclear weapons, you're talking about it. This is all very scary from the point of view of a layperson sitting and observing people who are talking about not talking and talking about war talk. How scary is that? I think that this is something that we have to take into consideration.
Okay.
At the end of the day, there's a saying that, war is old men talking and young men dying.
Absolutely. And General Qadhan, which is, of course, what brings me to my next question to you, which is, when we talk about Pakistan paying for this misadventure, when, like you are in all your wisdom saying that time for a response, what kind of response are we looking at? I mean, are we talking about a full-fledged war? Are we talking about a surgical strike, sir? What is the option that you're backing? Because, even after the surgical strike, there are all those who are saying, again, what good did that do us?
No, Natasha. Surgical strike was a one-time novelty.
Okay.
More than the damage that it caused on Pakistan in physical terms, it was an expression of intent on the part of India. That we not only have the means, we also have the political will to hit you in your own area, or what is supposed to be in their own area if you take the line of control as the dividing line. But obviously that lesson has not been learned by Pakistan, so we'll have to think of methods that are stronger than surgical strike. We don't necessarily have to cross the line of control.
Okay.
Our weapons can do that for us. Okay. And we have enough weapons, we have ammunition, and we should put enough pressure on Pakistan that either they declare an open war, which we are ready to fight, or they stop these perfidious attacks.
But again,
without that, nothing is going to happen. We can keep finding justification why Pakistan, because they are going to have election. Elections matter in a normal democracy. Pakistan, the entire country, is the tail is being wagged by the Pakistani army. So Pakistani army is not worried which party come in power.
Okay.
They are going to rule the country.
Okay.
And as far as China is concerned, that's a new factor.
Okay. Okay, but do both sides really want an escalation to that extent? Because at the end of the day, there are really winners, just losers on both sides. That is the big question. But war rhetoric rising now, both sides, and of course, will also make joining the dots to elections in both countries. Are they really linked in any way? That still remains the big question. Well, thank you all so much for your time this evening. It's a wrap then on the program. General Qadhan, Musharraf Zaidi, Siddiq Wahid, and Brigadier Gupta, thank you for joining us on Left, Right, and Centre. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye, good night.